Hi boys, I'm ready to continue the math lesson today. So yesterday we started lesson 29 and we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish lesson 29. So we're going to be starting in our workbooks. So if you could open your green workbook to page
69.
Page 69 and have your sharpened pencil ready to go, and page 69. And we are on part 4, okay? So find part 4 and touch problem A. Notice there are two numbers here that you're comparing, okay? You're going to compare to determine which one is the bigger number, okay? And we use the little alligator sign to do that, remember? This way or this way, the little symbol.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you remember, the bigger side of the sign touches the bigger number, and the smaller side of the sign touches the smaller number. So I will give you a minute. First, I want you to go through, touch problem A. Which number is the bigger number? 19 or 20? Which one? 20. Circle the number 20. Touch problem B. You have 33 and 22. Circle the bigger number.
33.
Touch, 33, good. Touch C. You have 40 and 39. Circle the bigger number.
You said 30 and 39 is 40.
Sorry, I misspoke. 40 and 39. Circle the bigger number. What's the bigger number?
40.
40. And D, you have 1 and 7. Circle the bigger number. What's the bigger number?
Alligator?
What is the bigger number?
7.
Good.
Bobby,
Now we're going to go back. And now that you've determined which number is the bigger number, that is the one that's going to get the bigger side of the sign. So let me show you my screen here, and I want you to see, just as a refresher, see how the bigger side of the symbol is next to the bigger number and the smaller side of the symbol is next to the smaller number. Go ahead and add the signs for B, C, and D, please, and then we'll check them. Let me know when you're finished.
Done.
Okay, so check B.
Yep.
Did you get that right?
Yep.
Touch C. Did you get that right?
Yeah.
Touch D. Did you get that one right?
Yep.
Okay, good job. Okay, for the next activity, you can look at my screen for this part. We are going to talk about starting with a number, and then we're going to do an action to that number to either get more or less. So listen, if you get more, you end up with more. If you get more, do you end up with more or do you end up with less? You end up with more, okay? If you get more, you end up with more than you started with. If you get less, you end up with less than you started with, okay? So look at my example here. I think this will make more sense when you look at my example. Notice that my starting number is 6. How many did I start with? 6. And how much did I end with? I ended with 8. So did I end up with more or less than I started with?
More.
I ended up with more. Good. Look at my next example. Okay. Listen. New problem. I start with 10 and I end up with 7. I start with 10 and I end up with 7. Did I start with more or less?
More.
I started with more. And did I end with more or less, I should say?
Less.
I end it with less. Good. Listen to my next story. I start with 5 and I end with 2. How much did I start with? 5. How much did I end with? 2. Did I end with more or less than I started with? I end it with less than I started with, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay, listen. If you buy things, you end up with more. If you buy things, do you end up with more or less than you started with?
Less.
You end up with more if you buy things.
How?
Listen, if you buy 3 things, you end up with 3 more than you started with. Once more, if you buy 3 things, you end up with 3 more things than you started with, okay? So if you buy things, what do you end up with? More or less? More, yes. If you buy 10 things, what do you end up with? 10 more than you started with. If you buy 41 things, what do you end with? 41 more than you started with. Now listen, if you sell things, you end up with less than you started with. If you sell things, you end up with less. So if you sell 3 things, you end up with 3 less than you started with. If you sell 3 things, what do you end up with?
3 more things.
3 less than you started
I'm gonna
with.
say less.
If you sell 53 things, what do you end up with? 53 less things than you started with. Okay? If you sell 1 thing, what do you end up with?
1 less.
1 less than you started with.
Yes.
If you sell 5 things, what do you end up with? 5 less than you started with. If you sell 20 things, what do you end up with? 20 less than you started with. Good. So now, boys, if you look here at my screen, we are going to practice some addition with 2 columns, okay? So when we have 2-digit addition, we always start adding in the ones column. So what is the problem that you add in the ones column? 9 plus 3. What is 9 plus 3? 12, right? So 12 is a 2-digit number. We can't write 2 digits in the ones column. So we need to carry the 10 over to the tens column right here. And then you add the ones digit to the 1 column. Do you see this, Julia? I think this is a new concept for Julia too. So when you're adding a number and the answer is 2 digits, then the first digit, the tens digit, has to go over to the tens column, and the ones digit stays in the ones column. Okay, so then after you determine that the 10 goes in the tens column, now you add the tens column. So what are you going to add in the tens column? 1 plus 4 plus 2. What's the answer? 7. Good job. Look at the next one. Okay, nope, actually, I'm sorry, you're in your book. Go ahead and find part 5 in your workbook and touch problem A. Read the problem for the ones column, boys. 5 plus 9. What is the answer to 5 plus 9? 14, right? And 14 has 2 digits. So once again, whoops, sorry, I'm not on the right problem. I'm skipping to B. We didn't do A yet. Okay. So let me repeat that. So 38 plus 12. Read the problem for the ones column. You should have 8 plus 2. What is 8 plus 2? 10. And when you write 10, 10 has 2 digits. So the 10 goes in the tens column and the 0 goes in the ones column. Now we're going to add the numbers in the ones column, or I mean in the tens column. So you have 1 plus 3 plus 1. What is that? What is the answer? 5. Good job. Going on to B, let's try that again. Okay, so read the number in the ones column. 5 plus 9. What is 5 plus 9? 14. And 14 has a 10 and 4 ones, right? And then when you add the tens column, you have 1 plus 4 equals 5. 5 plus 3 equals 8. Go ahead and touch problem C. Go ahead and work the problem for C, and then I'll press pause. When you're ready to move on, press play, and I'll show you the answer. Okay, and here's the answer. You should have gotten 82 as your answer, 82. Okay, boys, find part 6 in your workbook. These are number families you worked on before. They all have a small number of 3. Okay, so looking at part 6, all of these have a small number of 3 in them. You've worked them all before. First, you're going to write down the addition sentence that goes forward on the arrow. So what is the addition sentence? 3 plus 3 equals 6, right? And then what is the subtraction sentence that would go back on the arrow? 6 minus 3 equals 3. Good. Touch B. What is the addition fact that goes forward on the arrow? 4 plus 3 equals 7. And the subtraction fact that goes back in the arrow? 7 minus 3 equals 4. Touch problem C. What is the addition fact that goes forward on the arrow? 5 plus 3 equals 8. And the subtraction fact that goes back in the arrow? 8 minus 3 equals 5. Everyone touch D. What is the addition fact that goes forward on the arrow? 6 plus 3 equals 9. And the subtraction fact that goes back in the arrow? 9 minus 3 equals 6. Good. So let's just review coins real quick before we get started on this next part here. So listen, if you have 35 cents and you add 5 cents to that, 35 and you add 5 more, what would that be? 40 cents. Good. Listen, you have 60 cents and you add 5 more. 60 and 5 more would be 65. Listen, you have 73 and you add 10 more. 73 and 10 more is 83. Good job. Now go ahead and touch part 7 in your workbook here. You are going to write the dollars and cents for each row, okay? So go ahead. I'll give you a minute to work on that. Go ahead and press pause, and then you can press play when you're ready, okay? Okay, and we are back. So row A, what did you get for row A? You should have gotten $21.30.